Mike and Stephanie.
Mike and Stephanie, JY calling.
JY.
JY.
He lets his friends call him JY. Otherwise, it's Mr. Young.
Right.
Or Sir Mr. Young.
Oh, that's right. You were knighted.
Yes.
Totally forgot about that.
Well, he was Dade.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Yes.
Rapidly aging, but somehow still referred to as Mr. Young.
Yes.
Yeah.
How about that? What do they call that, Stephanie?
That's an oxymoron.
Thank you very much.
That's why I'm here.
Well, you're half right.
Okay.
Okay. And that's all the time we have.
I've not taken enough oxy to be qualified as a moron when I was on it as well. So.
Exactly. Wow. It's so early in the conversation, and we've taken an ugly turn.
Exactly. We should start over.
Listen.
You're throwing these fastballs down the center of the plate. I got to swing at them.
I know. These are batting practice fastballs for JY, by the way. Now, I'm going to start by saying that you are one of the most popular guests on this show. First of all, because, you know, in the annals of rock, there are many who are called rock stars, but few really live up to that moniker. And I just want to say that you were one of those guys. In the many phases of Styx, there was one constant, and that was JY shredding it up. Here's a guy who never lost sight of just abusing his guitar. So thank you for that.
Well, we have to make up some kind of a medal or a merit badge for that.
Yeah.
Guitar abuse.
Yes.
Guitar abuse. Yeah, in a day, in the age of the NFL and all the talk of abuse, this is one positive we can get here. You know.
Well, I mean, Pete Townsend abuses his guitar. Jimi Hendrix abuses his guitar.
Jimi Hendrix lit that thing on fire. That was beyond abuse.
3 or 4 idols. So,
Yeah.
there you go.
All right, so you know what? I don't want to dwell on the past anymore. You know, but I just have to say that I know you're one of these guys because you're smart, which is really cool, and talented, which is even more cool. But the fact is, even you, JY, have to go. Look, I'm in my late 40s, and people still come to these shows, and the music is even more relevant in many ways to like 3 generations back. My kids and kids younger than them are playing the Zeppelins and the Styx and the Doors and the Who. And why is that, JY?
I'm not certain, but I'm overjoyed that they are.
Yes. I say this a lot, and when we have guests of your ilk, your generation, and your status, but you know what? A good song's a good song, no matter when it was written and produced.
Yeah, I mean, something about Renegade. I have to give my colleague Tommy Shaw credit because that song so resonates with young people, male and female alike. Because I mean, rock and roll to me at its core is about teenage rebellion, and Tommy Shaw, in his own way, just captured the lyrics of that moment in everyone's developmental life, and it you know, I have people come up and tell me their kids say, I just heard this great new band with this great new song called Renegade and a band called Styx, and guess what? It's not a new song. It's certainly not a new band. So it just resonates with that teenage rebellion thing, and that's, to me, what's at the core of the rock music that I love, and was a big part of when it started in the 50s. So it's somehow we managed to bottle it and preserve it, and it's we love bringing it out.
We're here with JY Styx, of course, coming to the State Theater on the 4th of December, and I got to hand it to the folks at the State Theater. I don't know what they're doing. They must be, you know, knocking you guys unconscious, or they've got pictures or something to get you guys to come to this venue, because it's such a great place to see a show, and the audience is right on top of you, and you are right on top of the audience. And I know it's been a while since you guys have been there, but we are really looking forward to that. And you know, go to the State Theater website. I don't know that there's any tickets left, but you never know. Sometimes they're scattered, and it doesn't matter where you sit in that venue. Every seat's a good one. I know that sounds cliche, but getting back to what you just said, my kid, I've mentioned this many times, but my kids are so jealous that I got to grow up in the late 60s and through the 70s. I was 10 years old in 1970, So, for a 10-year-old boy to start his love of, well, I started earlier than that with the Beatles, obviously, with my cousins and my older sister, but they are so jealous that we had the 70s. There's never been a decade like that since, and I don't think there ever will be.
I do believe that it was a golden age for the evolution of rock and roll to happen. I mean, starting in the 50s, obviously, through the 60s, through the 70s, and until everything sort of turned left at the beginning of the 90s, which in many ways, grunge to me was just actually a reiteration of the roots of rock and roll, which is, some people in your basement just bashing away, which is what sort of the Seattle sound to me was, going back to the basics, forget all this glam stuff and then all this produced stuff. Let's get back to the core of a teenage rebellion again.
Right. And it was wasn't it just a change of how the guitarist played the chords? Because I think I remember seeing somebody from Alice in Chains or Soundgarden or something, and they were saying, back in the 70s it was this, but now we play it like this. It's sort of the same chord, but they do something weird to it.
Well, it just, it was a new twist on an old phrase, and there's some great music that came out of that era that sort of, classic rockers had maybe gotten away from. I mean, Soundgarden, the song Spoon Man is still one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah.
And it's just a badass guitar riff and in a time signature, and it's I love that tune.
Yeah.
And they also changed another. I mean, that guy's voice, Lane Staley, it's just
wow.
He's got it, And,
yeah.
He had too much of it. It was too much for him to handle.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, music is going to change. Styles are going to change. Tastes are going to change. And the fact that Styx has survived to have our music still be relevant. I mean, Blue Collar Man was written about a friend of Tommy Shaw's in an unemployment line in 1978, and hello, I mean, my goodness, you hate when something like that comes to ring true 30 years later, but that's
right.
what it's done.
And that man, of course, was Steve Jobs. And look what happened. No. And then he went on to do something else I don't remember. But he wrote a great song. Anyway, we're here with JY, the man who he catches the band on fire every night, and you don't want to miss him at the State Theater on November 4th. We could talk to you for hours, JY, but you alluded to something else. I can remember back in the late 90s when everybody said, hey, what's going to be the next thing? Because we had the 70s rock, and then the 80s was sort of techno, and whatever. Well, there's disco, and then there's tech, and then there was grunge, and nothing really happened after that, and nobody knows exactly why, but some have pontificated that the reason why we hang on to, if you want to use that expression, our music from the 70s and late 60s and so on and so forth is because I think deep down people are just looking for good songs, and maybe there aren't enough of them right now.
Right.
Well, we've got a DVD and a show that we videotaped in Las Vegas. It's going to be airing on Access Television sometime, hopefully in February. And we were interviewed. Don Felder actually was on tour with us this last summer, and doing Eagles songs. Him not being in the Eagles anymore, but he came on stage for Blue Collar Man, and so they interviewed he and I and Tommy sort of in the same room, and they were saying, "Well, why do you think your music is working now?" And I went into this whole pontification about how culturally America was ready and the world was ready for this sort of cultural evolution to take place, and Felder just never sits down when he's talking. It's about the songs, so.
Yeah.
All the hot air that emanated from me, Don has sort of crystallized it the same way you just did a minute or two ago here, and the songs still matter, and I think there's a humanity to the music that was created in the 60s and the 70s.
Yes.
And through parts of the 80s, before everything was all technology all the time, and anybody can sing, and if you sound like a machine, it's okay, and
yeah.
Everything sounds the same. It's the personality is kind of gone. I mean, the personality is there visually because music television is everywhere. It didn't exist in the 70s. But now that people can do make crazy images to go with their music, which is maybe done with machines or whatever. But our music has humanity to it, and I think the songs from our era have a lot more humanity than what's going on now. And but I mean, something like Mumford and Son comes along, and I don't spend a lot of time listening to it. But back to analog instruments. We're not even playing electric.
Right.
And I think everything goes in cycles,
well, you mentioned Mumford. You mentioned Mumford and Sons, and some of my kids' friends who like that band. I say, I liked Mumford and Sons when I heard them the first time back in the late '60s when that was folk music.
Right.
That's what it reminds me of.
Well, it is basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's got. I mean, that's where Bob Dylan started, and then Hendrix took those songs, and they have All on the Watchtower, and now Dylan does the Hendrix version because he recognizes that's the version everybody knows.
Yeah, and everybody took blues songs. Everybody took blues songs and made them rock songs. So yeah.
Well, anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, I know we're going to let you go, but I want to remind everybody: December 4th, the one and only Styx on stage at the one and only State Theater downtown Kalamazoo, and I like the fact that I'm going to go away from this interview knowing that you compared me to something that Don Felder said, who I've always thought was great, and that's the second thing now we have in common. The first thing, of course, is they called him Fingers Felder. They called me Fingers McKelly, but for a very different reason, JY.
And that's why he has a few PPOs against him.
Exactly. So we don't want to get into it on this show. I love JY. He's got a great sense of humor.
Exactly.
And he's from Chicago, ladies and gentlemen.
We love that.
Yes. Damn it. All right. JY, thanks. We'll see you on the 4th at the State Theater.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, guys.